Hello, highlighters. Erin King here. And I have to be honest, I wrote a book called You're Kind of a Big Deal. And today is probably the most big deal guest we've had on the podcast so far, if that's even polite to say, because it is Alison freaking Levine. Alison, I can't believe you're here. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to connect with you and your whole highlighter audience. And the honor is all mine. So
Oh
here we
my
are.
God, I'm so excited. So, highlighters, I'm sure you've heard of Alison Levine, but if for some reason
No,
you've been living under a rock,
nobody's heard of Alison Levine from my
everyone,
family.
well, and except for the rest of the world that knows you're a history-making polar explorer and mountaineer, you climbed the highest peak on every continent and skied to the North and South poles, which makes you one of only 20 people, 20 humans in the whole world that have completed the Adventure Grand Slam. You are the team captain of the first American women's Everest expedition. Stay with me, guys. She's also a professor at the U.S. Military Academy in West Point, a New York Times bestselling author. She has survived sub-zero temps, hurricane force winds, avalanches, and a career in Wall Street. Alison, where do we start? Okay, and the thing I like best about you, okay, I'm literally a little bit nervous. Okay, so what I like the most about anything that we just read is that your book in the beginning, you have your devotion in the beginning of your book. And it's like a full paragraph all about your dog. And then you're like
Yes.
fist bump your husband after, which I loved because that's exactly what I would do too. So we bonded over our obsession with dogs and just all things girl power. And I think if we could just share with my highlighters, the part of your story where the big part of the story, which is that you came within a few hundred feet of summiting Mount freaking Everest
Yeah.
and you had to turn around. I mean, what was that like?
Okay, so it was, first of all, it was crushing because I was the team captain of the first American women's Everest expedition at the time. So we're the first team of American women to even try something like this. And because we were the first team of American women, we had a ton of media coverage. So this is in 2002, long before social media, but we had 450 media outlets following our climb. And we did the whole morning show circuit before we left. And, all these CNNs doing live updates from the mountain and all this media coverage, and then we didn't make it. We got to within about 270 feet from the top, and we had to abandon our summit attempt because a freak storm came in at 6:30 in the morning, and it just was crushing because obviously, we wanted to reach the summit. We wanted to show what a team of dedicated, prepared women could do, motivated women could do when they lock arms and work together. The Ford Motor Company was our sponsor. We wanted them to be proud. And then we missed the top by a couple hundred feet. So you just feel, I felt like I disappointed myself. I disappointed my team. I disappointed my sponsors. I disappointed all the thousands and thousands of people who were following the trip. Discovery Channel was doing live updates on their website every day. And so it just felt like a punch in the gut to have such a public, high profile failure.
Wow. And Jay Leno had you as part of his opening monologue. Is that true?
Yeah. So Jay Leno mocked us during his opening monologue. And it's so easy to just internalize that criticism and internalize that failure. And what my future self, wishes she could tell my 2002 self, is that failure is simply one thing that happens to you at one point in time. Failure does not define you, right? We all know it's how you come back from failure that is going to determine your legacy. And plenty of people have failed. Look, when you think about Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, right? First guys to ever summit Mount Everest. There were dozens of climbers who tried and failed before those two made it to the summit. But those two, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, the famous guys, those guys had the benefit of all the data, all the research, all the information from those failed previous climbs and from those climbers that tried before them. So now when I fail at something big, I just think, you know what? Either I'm paving the way for my own future success, or I am paving the way for somebody else to go on and achieve really great things.
Well, it's so incredible to think that you swore you would never do it again. I mean, in your book, you're like, heck no. I got a great view from the whatever the altitude was. You were like, honestly, the view was great from where we were too. Don't need the extra couple hundred feet, like same
Right.
view, which I thought was so funny. And then somehow tell us about how you found yourself 8 years later back climbing freaking Mount Everest. I mean, that's
I really thought
what?
so. Part of it was, I would say, the view, I don't really feel like the view is going to be all that different. Like anything's going to change in my world if I go the last 270 feet. But
Yeah.
so that was part of it, keeping it in perspective. But the other part of it was, I was scared to go back because I thought, what if I
Mm.
fail again? If I fail again, will I ever get another corporate sponsor? Will people want to have me as their team captain? Will people want to invite me on harder climbs? And, what does that do to my reputation in the industry, in the mountaineering
Mm.
industry? Or, if I have another failure. And so I just was so afraid to go back and fail. But I ended up, it's a long story. I know you know the story from my book, but one of my really close friends who I felt was one of the bravest people that I knew, she passed away very suddenly at age 37, very unexpectedly. And I always said, she was a tremendous athlete. And I always said, if I go back to Mount Everest again, I would want to climb with my friend Meg
Yes.
Bertay, Meg Bertay
Yes.
Owen. And so after she passed away, I thought, you know what? If I want to honor this woman, honor our friendship, and honor her legacy, the the best thing I can do is to try to be brave, right? To be brave. And so I decided to go back to Mount Everest and try to climb again. And I was climbing in
Mm.
honor of my friend Meg. I engraved her name in my ice axe because I felt like then she was with me, right? I had her spirit with me.
Yeah.
I had her name engraved in my ice axe that I was carrying. And what I really learned from that experience, because the second experience, when I went back in 2010 and we did make it to the summit, I wasn't any less afraid. The fear did not subside. But what I learned is that you can be scared and brave at the same time. You can be
Mm.
scared and brave at the same time. And that's just what I had to keep reminding myself when I got to the parts of the mountain that were scary or were unknown to me, right? Because we turned around at a place called the South Summit in 2002. I had no idea what was beyond the South Summit. When I had to continue climbing in 2010 in a storm, again, we had a storm in 2010, but I felt like I was equipped to climb into that storm in 2010, where I didn't feel I was equipped to do it in 2002 because it was so new to me. In 2010, I knew what it felt like to get the living snot kicked out of me high up on that mountain in a storm because I went through that in 2002. So I wasn't afraid of it the second time around. So I think sometimes too, when you feel like you've been beaten up a bit,
Yeah.
it just kind of helps you to get through it in the future when you feel like you're getting beaten up again. You're like, hey, I got beat up doing this last time and I'm okay. I'm here to tell. So I can get through it again this time. It's not easy and it's not comfortable and it's definitely scary, but I know I can still get through it. So
Yeah. It's incredible. And I love so much about what you just said. There's so much to unpack there. I mean, number one, having the audacity to put yourself out there, even at the risk of what everyone's going to think, what it will do to your brand, what will do to your business. All those fears were so real. We've all had those, whether you're pivoting from, I mean, not all of us are like, oh, do I climb Everest again? But we all have that feeling of like, how do I revisit something that might fail again, or I might not be able to go to a new industry? We all have that feeling of like, what's this going to do to me if I don't make it to the top, right?
right.
There's another thing that you have surfaced, which is huge, which is the fact that you found this inspiration source, this like fuel to do the unthinkable from outside yourself. Like
Yeah.
you weren't up there like this is an ego thing. This is like I want my accolade. I want my gold star. You authorized your bravery to show up in memory of someone that you
Yeah.
loved, and going outside yourself to find that why is such a huge conversation, right?
Yes, I feel like if there's something bigger than yourself motivating you, that's how you keep going when you think that you can't. Because every time I felt like maybe I can't do this, or maybe I'm not going to be good enough or fast enough or strong enough. Maybe I don't have what it takes to achieve this. I would think, well, hang on, Meg, I know she would be cheering for me. I know that she didn't necessarily have, these incredible skill sets when she chose to pursue different things that she did in her life. You learn along the way. You have to, cut yourself some slack and realize that sometimes the process happens along the way. You don't have to
Yeah.
have perfect knowledge of everything before you try something. Sometimes it's a work in progress and you're learning as you go.
So have you always been this cool? Like, how did you get like this? I mean, did you grow up in a house where, like, did achievement equal affection?
No.
Like, were your parents super tough? Like, have you always just been this like brave? How did you get like this?
All right. So I grew up in a family that was very, very much of a tough love family.
Okay.
And my mom had these rules: no whining, no crying, no complaining, no whining, no crying, no complaining. So when you felt, so in some ways that has served me well, right? Because when the what hits the fan, I'm not the person to complain. No matter how bad something seems, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to whine. I'm going to try to find the positive in this situation, right?
Yeah.
So in anything, right? So like we're in traffic and somebody cuts me off, like my husband will start like swearing at that person, right? And I'm like, I'm just grateful that I have a job where I can afford a car to be in traffic where somebody can cut me off. So if you,
Yeah.
I find gratitude in almost every situation that I'm in, but also just no whining, no crying, no complaining. Here's the thing: nobody wants to be around whiners and complainers. They don't. And so I think that served me well in the mountains, because when times got really tough, when the storms came in, when the tents were being battered, when gear was being blown off the mountain, I was the person that could find some levity in the situation and could crack the funny joke or would say something to break the tension or make people laugh. And I also realized, I'm 5'4", so I'm pretty small. And I don't have the leg span that climbers who are 6'6" have. So I have to take, sometimes twice as many steps as taller people. But I don't have to be the best and the fastest and the strongest, but I can be the most relentless, and I can be the person who always puts a smile on their face and can find some ray of sunshine coming through in the really difficult situation. So growing up, like it served me well in certain situations, but also I was born with a hole in my heart that got bigger as I got older. So I've had 3 heart surgeries, but I was afraid to complain about it as a kid because no whining, no crying, no complaining. And a lot of times I couldn't breathe and I felt like there was an elephant sitting on my chest, but I wouldn't want to say anything because, oh, I don't want to complain. And so I actually wasn't properly diagnosed with this hole in my heart until I was 17, because I was so afraid to, complain about it. I didn't want to be a whiner. I didn't want to be a complainer. And so,
Wow.
there's upside to being that person, but there's also kind of a dark side and a dangerous side to being the person that doesn't ever want to be, call attention to yourself, doesn't want to whine, doesn't complain. I mean, look, I think that when you have a legitimate complaint, you've got to bring it forward. You don't have to whine about it, but you should. I really believe when there's something that needs attention, you bring it forward. You don't have to do it in a whiny, complainy way, but you do bring it to people's attention. So I regret not having said anything. I mean, I did say stuff when I was younger, but my mom would just I would say, oh, I feel like there's a elephant sitting on my chest. I can't breathe. And my mom would say, oh, you're fine. You're just nervous for your piano recital. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Mom, I don't think that's it. And she's like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, because I don't even take piano lessons, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I know. I took guitar lessons. You have these, they call them like helicopter parents that hover. I tell people I had space shuttle parents. Like, I know they loved us, but they just weren't very in tune with what was going on in our lives.
Well, we grew up in similar households, and it's what makes us.
Right.
And it's also, you look back and you're like, huh, okay, there's some things to unpack there, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like whether it's our parents or as women, maybe it's our like doctors that don't take our complaints seriously, or men that we work in an office environment with, that they're kind of like, oh, well, it's like as women, why are we always taught not to trust
Right.
ourselves? Why are we taught that our opinions should be suspicious or questioned or need a
Right.
second validation. It just drives me
Right.
to write angry, like, girl power books, actually. But, like, I mean, the idea that, you had this you had this condition, and you also have, Raynaud's, right? On your
Yeah.
hands, kind of,
Yeah.
my best friend Kim has that too, where you
Oh,
can get frostbite, and she has the white fingers. And so you have all these physical ailments, and I think what is so inspiring is you're the walking poster child of that the body follows the mind.
yeah.
I mean, you literally have convinced your body that this is what we're going to accomplish, and we do it. And I think it's something that it's like finding that balance, right? Like, because obviously, like, to your point, if you have something going wrong and you feel something wrong, listen to your body. Your body is here to protect you and keep you safe and to alert you to what you need to address. At the same token, you can choose. Like, you have this whole chapter talking about, your mantra, your personal credo, telling yourself, finding that anchor phrase that will. Yes. So tell us more about that. Like, I mean, you have this a big
Yeah,
chapter about your
I think
mantra.
everybody should have their own personal mantra. 3 words or 4 or 5 words, however many words you need, but some kind of phrase that describes who you are and represents this phrase should represent your core values, one of your core values, or one that's very strong and central in your life to who you are. And so for me, my mantra is count on me. I want people to know that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to freaking do it.
Yeah.
When I commit to something, I come through. I don't flake. You can count on me. If you are relying on me, and I've told you can rely on me for something, I'm going to deliver. And so it's really important. That's important also in the people that I surround myself with, right? I want to surround myself with people who feel the same way, who, when they commit to doing something, they do it. When they say they're going to deliver something, they deliver it. And it's hard for me sometimes when I deal with vendors or businesses, when someone tells me I'm going to have something on Tuesday by 2 p.m., if I don't have it on Tuesday by 2 p.m., I'm super, super frustrated, because either get it to me or let me know that it's not going to show up, but don't just let Tuesday at 2 p.m. pass by and you have not delivered what you say you're going to deliver. I want to be the person that people know that they can count on.
Yeah.
I want to be the person that shows up when she says she's going to show up. That is what I want people to know about me. And that's really who I am. And that's what's really important to me. So that's why my mantra is, count on me.
Well, it's so powerful. And you talk about team building in your book. And the big question that you pose when you're creating this dream team of gals that you were kind of evaluating is, you were like, would I trust this woman with my life?
Right.
And I work in the world of social media. Like, Instagram is not life or death, believe it or not. And I'm asking questions like that of my vendors, my partners, my team. Like, would I trust them with my time, which is my resource? But to ask, like, would I trust them with my life? I mean, what you've essentially done is you've built this team, but the women that you've attracted to accomplish all these incredible achievements is you've modeled the type of women and individuals that you want to attract into your life. And I think for so many of us, when we have people in our life, vendors letting us down, partners, friends, it's like the fastest way for us to find people that are not going to let us down is to start by showing up and being that person first, right? And that's like totally your whole jam.
Yes. Be that person first and set the standard, right? So other people know who they're dealing with, and it gives them something to model themselves after. If they're still trying to figure out who they are in life, personal life or business life or whatever. I mean, when I worked with people that always came through, I knew I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be that person that people knew would always show up. And you're never going to get I had to, it got to be really late and I needed to get some sleep. No, I'm going to stay up through the entire night to deliver whatever it is I told you I was going to have finished by the following morning at 9 a.m. If I have to stay up all night and do it, then that's what I do. But I mean, I just place a really high value on that. And when you're in extreme environments, like going to Mount Everest, or you're skiing 600 miles across Antarctica to the South Pole, you have to know that you can count on your teammates, because here's the thing. Everybody has their weak moments.
Yes.
Even the best, strongest, most experienced climbers can have a bad day on the mountain. And you want to know that you're surrounded with people who are going to be there to help you out when if the situation calls for it. And so like I said, I place a high value on people I know that I can count on. And if you don't come through, like, I might give you one more chance, but if you don't come through twice, I'm done. Like you said, you mentioned time is our most valuable commodity. Time is the only finite commodity, right? And so why waste your time with people that are going to disappoint you time after time? Oh, and highlighters, right? In the business world, if you can show your clients you are that person they know they can count on no matter what, that's when you're going to get the business and the repeat business.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I love that so much. That was a mic drop. Let's zoom out from, pun intended, the 30,000-foot view. Let's zoom out and take a look at what you talk about in your book, which is you talk about why backward is often the right direction. And you talk about backing down versus giving up. I am so interested in unpacking this a little bit because I think a lot of the gals, the highlighters that are listening to this episode, a lot of them entrepreneurs, as you know, they're small business owners. And I mean, I'm a multi-entrepreneur. Like, we start these ventures and you're at that point where you're like, is this a stick to itness moment? Is it like where you say that, bad things happen to good climbers? We need to fix the route. You talk about these things. Like, how do we know if we are in a season where it's time to just keep powering through, or when it's time to stop and say, you know what, this is not giving up. This is backing down to be smart and not giving up to be weak.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to draw an analogy for everybody here, which is the route up Mount Everest. So when you climb Mount Everest, you might think that maybe you start at base camp at a certain elevation. Base camp's about 17,500 feet. When you start at base camp, you might think you start there and then you climb up to the next camp and then to the next camp and then to the next camp. And that's how you climb Mount Everest. Just climb higher and higher and higher because that's what seems logical. But that is actually not how you climb Mount Everest. You're going to spend about 10 days or so hiking to base camp. Once you get to base camp, you spend a little time there to get used to the altitude. Then it's time to start going up the mountain. But you don't just go all the way up. You climb up to the first camp, call it Camp 1. That's the name of the first camp, Camp 1. And you spend the night up at Camp 1. And then the next day, you actually climb back down the mountain to base camp, back to where you started from. You spend a few nights at base camp again, and then you're going to climb up to Camp 1 again. Camp 1's over 20,000 feet. Then the next day you climb to Camp 2. Spend the night up there at Camp 2. At Camp 2, you're over 21,000 feet. You're at about 21.5. Spend the night up there at Camp 2. The next day, after you spend the night up there, you pack up all your stuff and you come back down to base camp again, back to where you started. And then you do that again, and you climb to Camp 1 again. You climb to Camp 2 again. Then you climb all the way to Camp 3 up on the side of the mountain. You're at about almost 24,000 feet above sea level, up on the side of Mount Everest. And then you climb all the way back down to base camp again, back to where you started, back to that home base again. And the reason you have to keep coming back down to that base camp is because you have to let your body get used to the altitude very slowly. It's this process called acclimatization. And it's this crazy, it's a catch-22, this acclimatization process, because you want to spend time high up on the mountain to get used to the altitude. When you spend time up high on the mountain, your body starts to produce more red blood cells. These red blood cells carry oxygen throughout your body. That's what keeps you alive and gives you energy and keeps you healthy. The more oxygen throughout your body, the better you're going to feel, the better you're going to be able to perform. But the more time you spend above 18,000 feet on the mountain, which is any camp above your base camp level, anytime you're above that elevation, your muscles are starting to deteriorate and your body's getting weaker. So the reason it's a catch-22 is you want to spend time up high to get used to the altitude and produce the red blood cells, but you have to keep coming back down low so you can eat, sleep, rehydrate, and regain some of the strength that you've lost from being up high. So you climb up and then you climb back down. You climb up higher, you climb back down. And it's really easy to think when you're climbing in the down direction, when you're going back down to your base camp, that you're losing ground, that you're erasing your progress because you're like, oh my God, I'm all the way up here at 24,000 feet. And I have to go all the way back down to 17,500 feet. What the hell? And it's easy to think, this is the wrong direction. I need to be going up the mountain. The summit is upward and I'm climbing downward. And so what I tell people is that, I remind people that progress is rarely linear. Progress does not have to happen in one particular direction. Sometimes you are going to have to go backwards for a bit in order to eventually get to where you want to be. So do not look at backtracking as losing ground. You have to look at it as an opportunity for you to regroup, regain some strength so that you're better out of the gates the next time around. I actually have a phrase that I trademarked, which is backing up is not the same as backing down. And that's what I really want these highlighters to remember, guys. Backing up is not the same as backing down. When you have to take some steps backward, you are not losing progress. This is not defeat. This is your opportunity to regain some strength so that you're better the next time.
Did that feel so good for anybody else just to hear that? I need to hear that today. And Alison, you're incredible. Your energy is off the charts. Your story is so inspiring. You have all kinds of great strategies in your book. I mean, you talk about complacency will kill you, ignore the rules. I mean, highlighters, just get the book. It's unbelievable. On the Edge by Alison Levine. Very practical, great storyteller, by the way. I felt like you feel like you're climbing the mountain with her when you read it. You feel like you are side by side. So that's pretty incredible. Alison, tell me this. If you had to talk to a highlighter face to face right now, and they are at the base of the Everest of their world right now, which a lot of people are there. Yeah. It's dark times. It's dark times. And they don't know how to take the very first step. Like they're paralyzed and they're seeing the whole mountain and they don't know what to do. What would be like your very first, like if you were standing next to them and you like grabbing their hand, like what would you tell them so they can take that first step?
Okay, so first of all, I remind people that when you feel that fear is directly proportional to your passion for whatever it is that you are doing, right? So remind yourself like this fear stems. I'm going to back up for a second. I think if most people had to put fear into a basket of positive emotions or negative emotions, they would think that fear is a negative emotion. I don't think so. I think fear can be a positive emotion because, like I said, it is directly correlated to the amount of passion that you have. And just think, you wouldn't be feeling that fear if you didn't care. So first of all, realize like I feel scared because I care. But also, again, you can be scared and brave at the same time. You can be scared and brave at the same time. And I've learned how to use fear to propel me forward. So when I feel scared, it keeps me kind of alert and aware of everything going on around me. And I think, you know what, look, even today, the world can be scary today, for sure. The world can be scary. And if you're not scared of some of the stuff that's going on, you're probably not paying attention. But it's okay to feel that fear. Just realize you can be scared and brave at the same time, and don't let that fear paralyze you, right? Fear is only bad when it paralyzes you. Use it as a motivator, right? To keep going. And the other thing that I would tell people is that, look, you don't have to be the best and the fastest and the strongest climber every day out there on your mountain, right? Because everyone's climbing their own mountain. All these entrepreneurs out there, it's like they're climbing a mountain, a figurative mountain, right? You don't have to be the best and the fastest and the strongest every single day. You just have to be absolutely relentless about putting one foot in front of the other. Stop worrying about being the best and the fastest. I know someone my size is never going to be the fastest and the strongest person on the team, but I can certainly be relentless, right? Yeah. And I used to worry about, like, I would see all these tall guys climbing the mountain, 6'4", 6'6", really long legs. You know, we're all carrying the same weight in our backpacks. And for me, as a smaller person, the weight in my backpack is a larger percentage of my body weight than it is for somebody who is 6'4", 230 pounds. Like a 40-pound pack is going to weigh me down way more than it weighs a taller person down. And so
Yeah.
I used to just get freaked out about, I'm not going to be as fast as that guy. I'm not going to be as strong as that guy. And then I realized I don't have to be, but I
Yeah.
do have to be relentless. And that's how you get there. The people that get to the top of Mount Everest are not necessarily the most skilled climbers. They are the ones who are willing to endure discomfort and who are willing to just put one foot in front of the other. Those are the people that get to the top of the mountain.
Oh, here's to being both brave and scared at the same time and climbing our mountain one foot at a time. It's so powerful. Alison, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and your energy. I know you have like 19 calls to jump on right now, so I'm not
No,
gonna.
I want to come back.
I could keep you for like 3 hours, but I won't.
Can we do another session sometime?
Let's do that. Would be fantastic. I want to talk more about ignoring the rules
Yeah.
and going through, complacency, all the things. So
Sometime.
I think let's agree it's part 1. Let's agree this is part 1.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Alison, thank you so much for everything.
Oh my gosh.
You're such an inspiration. I can't even tell you.
You're my inspiration. I love your book so much. I've gifted it to so many people, and I'm just so honored to be here with your whole highlighter group. And I hope that, everyone's maybe taken something from it. But if you all have questions or feel free to reach out to me on social media. It's mostly just pictures of my dog, big surprise. But but I'm really excited to be here because I know everybody has mountains to climb in their life, right? And as soon as you get to the top of the one you think is the tallest and the hardest, then there's another mountain in front of you, right? So we're always going to have the mountains. And just remember, you like the day that you feel like you did your absolute best, the best, and you got to the top of that mountain, tomorrow you got to be even better, right? But that's okay. You don't have to be the fastest and you don't have to be the strongest. In order to be better, you just be the most relentless.
Thank you so much, Alison. We're going to link to everything in the show notes, your website, your book, link to everything. And
I'm such a fan of yours, Karen. I'm such a fan. So I'm so pleased to be here with you. And I hope this is the first of many, many sessions.
Right back at you. Thank you so much.